Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into a single, incredibly powerful piece of art, Lupe Fiasco's song, The Coolest. We've got a pretty comprehensive analysis here to work with, and, well, our mission today is pretty clear.
That's right. We're essentially going to unpack this song's really complex narrative, the characters he creates, and the big themes running through it all.
Yeah, trying to understand its significance, not just, within hip-hop.
Especially given when it came out, yeah.
Exactly. But also what it's saying, sort of more broadly about society.
We'll explore how Lupe uses these super intricate lyrics, really powerful metaphors, to tell this story. It's about a young man getting tangled up with destructive forces.
And what that story tells us, right? About identity, belonging, and this whole idea of what cool even means.
It's definitely a deep dive into the song, yes, but also like the world it reflects and maybe some important lessons it offers.
So if you're curious about how art, culture, and some pretty tough social issues connect,
you're in the right place.
Okay, so let's unpack The Coolest. It was on Lupe Fiasco's second album, Lupe Fiasco's The Cool. Came out, December 2007?
Yep, 2007. And the analysis we're looking at really frames it as one of hip-hop's most, I'd say, sophisticated looks at street life.
And not just street life in general, but specifically that impact of absent fathers.
Right, and the seductive pull of that destructive, cool culture, it nails that.
What's really interesting, too, this wasn't just like a standalone track, was it?
No, not at all. This album, The Cool, it was meant to be a concept album. A loose one, maybe, but still.
Building on things from his first album.
Exactly. Characters and ideas he first introduced in a song also called The Cool from his debut, Food and Liquor.
Ah, okay, so he's building this whole narrative world across albums. That's ambitious.
Very. The analysis mentions Lupe wanted it to feel cohesive, almost like you could watch it, like a film with a plot.
He even mentioned Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. That's aiming high.
It really shows his artistic vision, doesn't it? He wasn't just making songs. He was crafting a world, pushing what hip-hop could do.
And his background feeds into that, right? Wasaloo, Muhammad Jocko, Chicago's South Side.
Yeah, but from a family really involved in social activism, they encouraged his intellectual side.
So you get this this duality the analysis talks about. He's smart, socially aware, devout Muslim, avoids drink and drugs.
But completely grounded in street reality. That mix gives him such a unique lens.
In 2007, that was a heavy year for him personally.
Incredibly heavy. The analysis calls it racked with tragedy. Lost his father, an aunt.
And his business partner, Charles Patton, got a long prison sentence. Drug charges.
Yeah. So all that personal loss definitely fed into the album's darker feel. Its focus on death, loss, the consequences of the street life.
You can almost hear that weight in the song.
Yeah.
And culturally, 2007, that was peak bling era hip-hop, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The analysis points this out clearly. Mid-2000s, crunk music, southern rap dominating. Huge focus on, well...
excessive materialism, misogyny, violence in the mainstream stuff.
Right. There's even research showing hip-hop listeners scoring higher on conspicuous consumption. The music was reflecting, maybe driving, that focus on status symbols.
So amidst all that flash, you have artists like Lupe, Common, Talib Kweli.
Most def, yeah. Trying to pull things back towards hip-hop's earlier, more conscious roots. Social justice.
Creates a real tension.
Definitely. And Lupe's approach, the analysis argues, was pretty brilliant. He didn't just reject the mainstream. He tried to engage with it, subvert it.
His goal was the quote, to make the things in the world that are cool seem uncool.
Exactly. And The Coolest is maybe the prime example of that strategy. Which brings us to the characters, this trinity of destruction, the analysis calls it.
Okay, so first, Michael Young history.
Right, which I love that the analysis notes is a play on my cool young history. He's that vulnerable kid.
Easily drawn in by the street's appeal. His backstory, abandoned father, struggling in school, no positive male role models.
Even with a caring mother and sister, that father-shaped hole is presented as, like, the critical weak spot.
And the name itself, Michael Young History, suggests it's not just him, right? It's a cycle.
A pattern, yeah. And Lupe doesn't paint him as just a victim or just a villain. You feel for him, but you also see his terrible choices.
Then there's the streets, personified as this seductive woman.
Such a powerful move. turning this abstract idea, the allure of the streets, into a character you can actually feel the pull of, feel the danger.
The analysis paints her vividly. Eyes like dollar signs, key locket, Capone tattoo, offering Michael everything he thinks he's missing.
Love, status, purpose, belonging, all the stuff he couldn't find elsewhere.
And the way she promises it is almost romanticized.
She would be my queen, I could be her king. Together, she would make me cool, and we would both rule forever. It helps you get the emotional draw, not just the material stuff. She's the answer.
Offering fulfillment, protection.
Everything.
And the third part of this trinity, the game. The street's husband.
He's the calculated side, strategic. The analysis describes him visually: skull head, dice eyes, breathing crack smoke.
Embodies the cold calculation and the destruction.
And significantly, he steps in as a kind of fake father figure for Michael, offers the guidance his real dad didn't.
Which reflect how these street organizations can sometimes mimic family structures, right? Older figures mentoring younger ones.
Yeah, in this really twisted, harmful way.
Yeah. So between the streets and the game, they offer this facade of a complete family unit. Affection, guidance.
Even though it's all geared towards destruction. And the analysis points out how the game's role really highlights the instability.
His eventual betrayal of Michael.
Right, hinted at when Michael gets killed later in the album's story. And the game is suspiciously absent. It shows these bonds are built on exploitation, not real loyalty, and not like they promise.
Okay, let's get into the lyrics. Verse 1 really sets up that seduction, that opening line. Wow. I love the Lord, but sometimes it's like that I love me more.
Right there, the core tension. Spiritual values versus selfish desire. It's not simple good versus evil, it's a complex internal fight.
And then those lines that seem almost contradictory. I love the peace, and I love the war, I love the seas, and I love the shore.
Classic Lupe wordplay. Peace, peace, sea, seas. It shows his skill, sure, but it's thematic, too. That duality again, pulled towards harmony and conflict, stillness and chaos.
And the street's promises just keep escalating in that verse.
Lines like, she said that she would give me greatness, status, placement above the others, of the hustler's paper, the likes of which that I had never seen.
That speaks right to kids feeling marginalized, invisible. The promise of being seen, respected, having money.
Hacks into those fundamental needs, respect, security. Needs maybe not being met elsewhere.
And the climax of that verse is so vivid. And if the rain stops and everything's dry, she would cry just so I could drink the tears from her eyes. She'd teach me how to fly, even cushion my fall.
It elevates the streets to this almost godlike level, controlling nature, offering total protection.
That flying and falling metaphor perfectly captures the highs and the inevitable crash.
Then verse 2 just slams you with the reality. The tone shifts instantly, that wordplay again. And so began our reign. Reign, the Trinity, her and I.
So clever. Rain, power, and destruction. And spelling out her and I can as hurricane, literally naming the destructive force they've become.
And this verse gets specific about who is most vulnerable. The analysis highlights this.
The ones that had deadbeat daddies and what-to-do mamas, but not well enough to keep them from us. The ones that were fighting in class who might not pass.
Right. It names the vulnerabilities. Absent fathers, overwhelmed mothers, school struggles. Lupe gets the systemic issues that make kids susceptible.
And the real gut punch of verse 2 is Michael repeating the cycle, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Quote, to a crying, dishonored baby mama, who's the mama to a daughter that I had fathered from afar. That part is just tragic.
He abandons his own kid, just like his dad did to him, while getting seduced by the material stuff from the streets.
My new lady gave me a Mercedes and a necklace with a solid gold key, like the starter of a car. That key is also key slang for a kilo of drugs. He trades fatherhood for status symbols and the drug trade.
The trauma just gets passed down.
Exactly.
Then the outro changes tone completely. It's like a direct warning. Almost breaks the fourth wall.
Come, these are the tales of the cool guaranteed to go and make you fail from your school and seek unholy grails like a fool. He just drops the metaphor and speaks plainly.
About the real consequences. Failing school, chasing corrupt goals, getting caught in the hustle.
And maybe the most chilling lines the analysis suggests are about the spiritual cost. No heaven up above you, no hell underneath ye, and nowhere will receive thee.
That idea of spiritual limbo, rejected by both heaven and hell, it captures this profound alienation, like this life leaves you spiritually homeless.
Deeper than just the physical stuff.
And speaking of that incredible wordplay, the analysis really digs into Lupe's technique here. Rain, hurricane,
Piece, piece, spoil leading to raw, vessel like blood vessel and flower.
Green for money and color, sub for submarine and sandwich.
Mm-mm.
And that key one is so layered.
It's not just showing off, right? It's essential. It packs multiple meanings into single phrases, rewards you for listening closely, and reinforces the themes. It makes you think.
And that core metaphor, street life as a romance, is just so effective throughout.
The analysis nails this. It makes these abstract social forces relatable. Attraction, courtship, commitment.
Betrayal. Addiction, almost.
Yeah. It helps us grasp the psychological pull. It's not just bad choices, it's about emotional needs being met, even if destructively.
The whole structure follows that classic arc, too. Seduction, reality, warning. Takes you through the whole cycle.
Yeah, it's really well constructed.
So let's zoom out a bit. The big themes. Obviously, the nature of cool. It's right there in the title.
And Lupe's whole project, influenced by Cornel West as the analysis notes, is about flipping that idea, making the destructive stuff seem truly uncool.
Right. The analysis explains how coolness acts like social currency, especially when other paths to success feel blocked. Street culture offers this alternate route to respect.
But the irony, the tragedy the song exposes, is that gaining that street status costs you everything else. Your relationships, safety, your spirit.
It hammers home that this kind of cool leads to emptiness.
Profound emptiness, yeah.
And then there's the father absence theme. It's huge. Michael's vulnerability ties directly back to his missing dad.
The analysis shows how it links to identity confusion, getting needs met badly, and repeating the cycle like Michael abandoning his own daughter.
And this isn't just about street life, is it? It touches broader issues, family structure, role models, trauma cycles.
Absolutely. The song also dives deep into that spiritual alienation we mentioned, that moral struggle.
Sometimes it's like that I love me more. Sets it up right away.
And that spiritual limbo ending. Rejected by heaven and too bad for hell. It captures a unique kind of isolation for people caught in that world, a spiritual crisis beyond just material hardship.
But fundamentally, the analysis argues the coolest is about the search for belonging, for identity.
That's what Michael desperately wants from the streets and the game, a place to feel valued, important, accepted.
And street culture does provide that, tragically. An identity, a sense of belonging, purpose, even power.
The tragedy the song highlights is that these legitimate human needs get met through destructive means. It forces this awful choice between immediate emotional needs and long-term well-being.
And thinking back to the context, 2007, that bling era.
Yeah, the analysis mentions research showing how hip-hop's focus on materialism was affecting listeners' values, more focus on consumption.
Lupe's move was to critique that from inside the genre, using story and character to show the emptiness, not just rejecting it outright.
Very effective.
And the father absence crisis itself, that's a huge social issue, especially in certain communities. The analysis brings up stats.
High rates of kids growing up without consistent father figures, yeah.
And the documented negative impacts, poverty, education, behavior, mental health. The coolest basically takes those statistics and puts a human face on them. Shows how they create the exact vulnerabilities that let destructive influences in.
It also shows vividly how street culture can function as that alternative family when traditional supports are missing.
Street orgs offer mentorship, protection, identity, maybe even money.
But as the song makes painfully clear, it comes at a massive cost. Those relationships are based on exploitation, not real care.
What's striking is how relevant it all still feels. Years later.
Definitely. The analysis points out how themes like materialism, status seeking as substitutes for real connection, that resonates hugely today. Think social media.
That core human need for belonging, guidance, purpose, the things that draw people into bad situations, that's constant, isn't it?
The specific forms change, maybe, but the needs stay the same.
The song and album got a lot of attention back then, critically.
Yeah, The Guardian gave the album 3 stars, liked the critique, but found the concept maybe a bit unclear.
But the Austin Chronicle loved it. Called the album hip-hop's doomsday device, praised the complexity, said it needed academic analysis.
Which is exactly what we're doing now. So, yeah, maybe some debate on the overall concept execution.
But the lyrical skill and the social commentary power were undeniable.
And academics have picked up on it as a text for studying social issues, cultural critique, father absence, alternative families.
And Lupe himself talked about Cornel West's influence and how his own personal losses shaped the album's themes of loss, betrayal, spiritual crisis.
Which adds another layer of understanding.
Beyond just appreciating it as art, though, the analysis really pushes its use in education.
Makes sense. The story, the emotional depth, It's a great tool for talking about tough stuff with young people, decision-making, peer pressure, consequences.
And the wordplay, the metaphors. Perfect for teaching literary analysis, critical thinking, social studies, literature, psychology, ethics.
Loads of applications, and maybe even therapeutically.
Yeah, the analysis suggests using the narrative to discuss trauma, loss, belonging, especially for young people who've faced similar things.
The song doesn't just condemn, right? It focuses on the needs behind the choices. That makes it a non-judgmental starting point.
Could be useful in trauma therapy, family counseling, group work, addiction counseling.
Potentially very valuable.
And finally, relevant for community development too. It shows how the lack of positive community support creates these vulnerabilities.
Absolutely. It can spark conversations about needing better mentorship, family support, youth programs, building communities where kids feel valued and connected in healthy ways.
So we've really journeyed through the layers of the coolest. The incredible wordplay, that powerful metaphor framework.
And the deep dives into themes like father absence, the search for belonging, and that illusion of street cool.
This song, coming out in 2007, peak bling era, it wasn't just art for art's sake.
No, the analysis makes clear it was a critique, a cautionary tale, using Michael Young history, the streets, the game, to expose the spiritual void behind the materialism and destructive choices.
We saw how it still resonates. Through reviews, academic work, its potential in education and therapy, it has this lasting power to start conversation.
And Lupe's ability, that stated goal, to make the things in the world that are cool seem uncool. Through such sophisticated art, it really challenges you, doesn't it, to look deeper.
To question what we value.
Yeah.
The real cost of chasing illusions.
Exactly.
So, thinking about all this, if street culture and chasing that superficial cool can step in and meet, or seem to meet, needs for family, identity, purpose, what does that tell us about the voids in society itself? The gaps that make those destructive alternatives seem so appealing to begin with? Keep thinking about that.